This podcast is part of the Some Buddies Network. You're never alone when you've got some buddies.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are coming at you like a hurricane. In fact, we're coming at you like Hurricane Neddy. And of course, when I say we, that means I'm not coming at you alone. Joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid.
We means me! Yay! This is quite the episode, Miles. I think there's going to be a lot going on here. There's a lot of anger in this one, man, and I kind of felt it a lot more this time. But I know you've got plenty to say as well, so let me throw it back to you, the man, the myth, the Minnesota Spankological Protocol man himself. It is Miles.
I have studied there. Before we even dive into this one, man, first and foremost, let's just go ahead and pull a muscle, patting ourselves on the back. This is episode 150, not Simpsons episode 150, but Best Darn Diddly, 150 weeks in a row.
Never skipping a beat, except, with the season finales and the spectaculars. And,
hey, they still count, man. They still count. It's
still
on
count.
Each and every week, and we are getting close to the point where if I have any more traveling come up, I'm going to have to call in some reserves. But so far, we are we're just a few short weeks away from our 3-year anniversary.
Wow. And hey, man, if you need to take any trips, why don't you just hop on the hurricane there?
Fast travel system.
Yeah.
If they make another Simpsons game, that should be the fast travel system. If it's like an open world game, you just hop on a Hurricane Neddy, it'll pop you all over. Except they also have the monorail, and they also have, like, Mr. Platt.
Auto.
They have so many options that Hurricane Neddy is honestly the worst one.
That's what makes it the funniest.
For sure. We are talking about Hurricane Neddy, which is a just phenomenal episode. I'm so glad that this one lined up with our 150th, because, again, round numbers are important. But this episode originally aired on December 29th, 1996, both making it the last episode to air in 1996, and also a very rare episode in terms of The Simpsons schedule, because most of the time, The Simpsons are on break during the week between Christmas and New Year's. There are very, very few episodes that fall in between those two dates, and I think it's funny that this is both one of them and also has absolutely nothing to do with either Christmas or New Year's.
Yeah, I was just thinking here, I don't remember. I know I watched this one when it originally aired, but I don't remember that feeling at all anytime I watched this one.
No, not even a little bit. And I don't honestly remember if I saw this one air live when it first came out or if I caught it in a rerun first, because I don't. And that's simply because I do not have any sort of memory of Christmas being associated with this at all. And I feel like even if I had watched it at Christmas time, I would have at least had that memory in my mind.
We're all twisted up because of this episode, not because of the title, though.
Exactly, yeah. I'll go ahead and mention the commentary for this one featured Josh Weinstein, George Meyer, Bob Anderson, the director, and Steve Young was the writer, and this was his very first episode to write. In fact, this was one of the episodes on this season that was the mandatory Writers Guild freelance written episode. If you remember, when we talked with Mike Price, I want to say it was the first time he was on the show, which would have been Homer the Heretic. We dove a little bit into this concept, but essentially each season, shows are required to give out episodes or take written episodes from people outside of their writing staff. It's a way to give new writers an opportunity. And in this case, Steve Young was actually a writer for David Letterman, or the David Letterman Show, Tonight Show, whatever show it was at this time back in 1996. He came on and he wrote this script with the idea, collaborative idea, I should say, coming from long-term Simpsons writer George Meyer. Because you see, It was already a focus of the show at this time to kind of explore some of the auxiliary characters like we've discussed, and obviously this one very much explores what makes Ned Flanders tick. They kind of had the idea, since he's so religious, to do a sort of Job parallel to some extent. At least it starts that way. But actually, a lot of the idea for this one, the overall joke of the townspeople trying to help and just completely fucking it up, came from legendary SNL writer Jack Handey, who is a friend of George Myers, and he had a sketch that he had an idea for that never came to be, that was about a very stressed out and overworked shoemaker who woke up one morning to find that magical elves had come to his rescue and made all of the shoe orders, fulfilled everything that he needed, and really saved the day, until he noticed that these elves happened to just really suck at making shoes, meaning that his life was actually more difficult because of this. So all of these ideas kind of merged together, and Steve Young did a fantastic job, and of course ended up getting hired to write more episodes in the future.
I always get kind of a Michael Myers feel from this episode. I think it's just because of the doctor-patient parts. I don't know why. It just makes me think of Halloween a lot.
That's spot on, because there are multiple Halloween references in this episode, especially in terms of the doctor. There's a lot of conversation that is almost directly parodying Dr. Loomis's conversation on the phone when he's woken up and told that Michael Myers has escaped.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Okay, I was supposed to feel this way all along.
Yeah, smarter
Wait,
people.
they tricked me.
Smarter people than yourselves made you feel the way you feel, Richie.
No, wait. If they can do it that easily, what about the government?
Oh no. Well, let's go ahead and get started with the episode now that you know how it came to be. This one did not have a chalkboard gag, which is very, very familiar in season 7 and 8. This one does have a new couch gag, though, and one that I think is pretty funny. The Simpsons run into an empty living room where you see a Vend-A-Couch system. Homer puts a quarter in, nothing happens until he pounds on the machine, and of course is crushed by the couch.
Doh!
We see that he's recovering just fine, though, to start the episode. He's lazily laying in his hammock and just really enjoying a mid-afternoon nap. When the weather starts to turn a little bit, we can see that the wind has picked up, and you can just notice a change occurring outside. And Lisa is actually in her bedroom window, and she's directly observing that the pressure and temperature are dropping, and she actually consults her book, the How, Why, and Huh Book of Weather, which is also a parody in itself of a science book series called How and Why.
What I enjoy in the scene is the little noises that Homer makes when the straw blows away from the angle that he can drink it at. It's just,
Yeah.
these little pucker noises.
That's really the most of his concern.
But like he's asleep too. But it's kind of cute in a way, and it's just Dan doing something that everybody else would overlook. But he's just got this little tweaks that he can do with it to make it like really funny, even though it's the smallest of noises.
The little details make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And Lisa notices that the little changes in the weather are signifying a huge event that might occur. It seems that a hurricane is on the way. And Lisa immediately goes to warn her father.
Oh, Lisa, there's no record of a hurricane ever hitting Springfield.
Yes, but the records only go back to 1978, when the Hall of Records was mysteriously blown away. And right out the bat, we have a just wonderful joke to get us started. We see Santa's little helper is struggling now in the wind, and Homer, who still just cannot believe a hurricane is coming, actually is now wondering what's wrong with his dog.
What is it, boy? Fire? Earthquake? Hippies?
And at this point, the wind actually blows Santa's little helper away, like off into the air, and finally, Homer acknowledges what's happening.
Somehow, the animals are always the first to know.
Right in front of Lisa, who's been arguing with him about it for the last several seconds.
Miles, how did you hold up with that Santa's Little Helper blowing away bit?
This one didn't bother me, and I don't know why I am the way I am, Rich. Some animal jokes don't do it, and some of them really do, but this one just made me giggle.
Is it because it wasn't a human being causing harm to him?
Probably. That actually is probably a huge significance of why that is.
Fair enough. Let's dive deep. Let's call Dr. Foster in so we can peel back the scab, so to speak.
Well, first, let's hear from Kent Brockman. And the Weather Service has warned us to brace ourselves for the onslaught of Hurricane Barbara. And if you think naming a destructive storm after a woman is sexist, you obviously have never seen the gals grabbing for items at a clearance sale.
That's true, but he shouldn't say it.
Lisa, again, the voice of reason here, decides, hey, we should probably go get some supplies. So the family heads out to the Quickie Mart, where we see a mob scene and Apu is standing on top of his store with a megaphone.
Stand behind the flaming garbage cans. We'll be letting you into the store 70 people at a time.
And from the crowd, Kirk Van Houten actually yells out, oh, let's just beat him up and take his stuff.
No. Do not listen to that man. Remain calm. You will all have a chance to be gouged. Okay. Yeah.
The crowd is very, very comfortable with their upcoming gouging that they're going to be taking. I thought that was really, really good scene. And I think it's funny, actually, that it's Kirk who is the one that declares they should riot. It seems like maybe the divorce has given him a little bit of a darker, more sinister edge.
He needs a win, Miles.
He really needs a win. That's true.
My guidebook points out that this is the second time we've seen Apu on top of the Quickie Mart with a shotgun. The last time was in Homer the Vigilante.
Oh, right on. The commentary actually talks about this scene is directly inspired from the fact that basically everybody on the staff lived through the 1992 LA riots, where this was actually not that uncommon to see supermarkets just completely overrun with people. And you would legitimately go into the stores and like they would have like a can of cream corn and like maybe like a garden hose or something, but like it was not
no creamed eels.
It was not quite as bad here, where it's creamed eels, corn nog, and wadded beef.
Ugh.
Lisa's just like, Mom, it is what it is. Let's just grab what we can and get out of here. This storm is making people crazy. And just then you see two hands poke through the crowd and grab Lisa by the head.
The last pineapple, and plenty ripe too.
Lisa's actually picked up by Mrs. Glick and placed in her cart. But I'm not fruit. I'm a kid.
That's what the pumpkin said.
And next to her in the cart, we see good old Ralph. Hi, Lisa. We're going to be in a pie.
Oh, it's a dark thought, Ralph.
And it's absolutely what Mrs. Glick would do in an emergency.
To be fair, Ralph does have the shape and the attributes of a pumpkin. I mean, his hairlines come down in the front of his face just like it would in the front of a pumpkin.
And to be fair, Lisa does have the hair of a pineapple.
Exactly.
We also get a fun scene over at the retirement castle where we see the National Guard is actually escorting the elderly out of the building to prepare for the hurricane, except for Grandpa is just refusing to go, even though the evacuator is assuring him it's just for his own safety.
I ain't leaving. I was born in this nursing home, and I'll die in this nursing home.
Is there any chance of changing your mind?
Sure, let's go.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Finally, back at the Simpsons' home, we see the Simpsons are preparing for the storms themselves. They're boarding up the windows, and Homer is actually using the door to board up a window, while Bart is duct taping Maggie's pacifier to her mouth.
That's smart. I mean, she doesn't want to lose that. It's the source of all her powers.
That's true. Ned, of course, though, has much better prepared than Homer has. You can see that everything in the Flanders home is already boarded up, and he's even got tarps tied down, protecting and holding in his goods. And Ned being Ned, he, of course, offers to help.
Need some help there? You know, maybe you folks should come over and punker in our bunker. Oh, it'll be fun. We're going to go through our old canceled checks and receipts and give ourselves an audit. Make sure we don't owe anything extra.
Homer is trying to politely back out by saying he doesn't want to be a third wheel.
Oh, no siree. We'll be happy as heads to...
I would make it my business to be a third wheel.
Oakley dokley. Ooh, I better go take down the manger scene. If baby Jesus got loose, it could really do some damage.
Marge and Lisa arrive home with the groceries.
Oh, that's how we know it's Christmas. Holy crap.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Holy crap.
Well, no, actually, the Flanders would have a manger scene up all the time, I feel like.
But it's specific to Christmas, though. And you'd take them down after Christmas is over. We watch them on a weekly basis. I think that's the reference.
I will say I think that's a great sight on your part, but I also would argue that Flanders would be that jackass that would have the manger scene up year round.
Maybe. I'm going to stick with my guns on this one. Let's continue.
It's a good observation. I very, very well done.
Pat me on the back, sir. I've been a good boy.
Already have, sir.
All right.
But you're not listening.
Yes, I was.
Damn it, Richie. It's 150 weeks in a row now. You should have this down by now. Listen and react.
If you let me loose, I could really do some damage.
When Marge and Lisa arrives home with the groceries, Homer declares it's time to get into the cellar because the storm is coming. So he announces the standard grandpa drill, and everybody runs into the basement.
Clever one, Homer.
I like, actually, they do a second intro, very much like the opening of the show, but this time, instead of The Simpsons, it's The Hurricane. And we see that the storm is absolutely a-blowing at this point. We kind of look all over town. There's a joke here early on where the hurricane hits the state prison. And this joke was actually pitched by Matt Groening himself, who happened to be in the room while it was being written. But a man who is being executed, the roof is ripped off of the execution room, and he's actually ripped away from the electric chair itself. And it's kind of a funny moment where he's like, haha, suckers, see you on the other side, right before he runs into the power lines and ends up actually electrocuted anyway.
Oof. Which, why would you do that during a hurricane? Like, everyone knew the hurricane was coming.
Well, and they're all there, and they actually cheer when he dies, too. So.
Oh. Again, another reference from my guidebook. It talks about the dean from the college that Homer attended was there.
Oh, wow.
I went back and watched it again. I forgot the dean at the college was the younger guy. I was thinking of the high school principal, but the younger guy was actually there. So I don't know what that had to do with it.
That is odd. Sometimes they just reuse character models, though, I think.
Yeah.
We cut back to the Simpsons' basement, where Marge is now looking more and more concerned as she looks outside the window, trying to keep her eye on the storm. She gets an idea, though, that they should do something to take their minds off of it, and she finds an old Rubik's Cube, and decides, hey, why don't we all work on this together?
Okay, start with diagonal colors.
Use your main fingers on the yellow side and your other finger on the orange side and turn it.
My main finger?
Orange to orange.
Now you have to turn it back.
You gotta start backwards.
Mom!
No,
Mom.
you so fast. No, ignore the red.
No.
Alternate corners.
One at a time.
And that's when Marge remembers why she put that thing in the basement to begin with.
Well, Bart has one last thing where he says, spin the middle side topwise. Topwise! And I was
what
like...
the hell is topwise?
I get that. If it's on the side, you want to spin it to the top. I totally get that.
I guess maybe, but you have no idea what top-wise direction would be in terms of, like, from whose perspective. There's a lot wrong with that, Richie. There's too many options.
The side he's looking at.
Okay.
I got you, Bart. I got you.
I'm sure you guys would have that thing solved in no time.
Exactly.
The light starts to flicker in the basement as the storm is getting more and more intense, and across town we actually see the Springfield harmonica shop. It's really funny because the doors are ripped off, and then you hear beautiful music playing from the wind blowing through the harmonicas.
What's the other? Like, I had to pause this numerous times on the second one. Was it a harp shop?
A harpsichord, I think.
Oh, okay. Ye old harpsichord shop. But it was so nicely written in Old English that I could not understand it when it was playing by multiple times. I had to keep rewinding on that.
Well, and instead of them playing this time, they just start shooting everywhere like you would expect.
Yeah.
At this point, the storm actually starts to calm down, and Homer gleefully runs outside, declaring it's fine, even though, once again, Lisa warns that it's probably just the eye of the storm, though I love Homer's reaction to that, because he's talking about, like, ooh, just look at the eerie calmness. It indicates that it's over. And then the Bolorama goes flying by, very, very, like, Wizard of Oz style, and Homer has a moment where he's like, I don't remember that being there. Homer tries to dive back into the basement, but actually gets caught by the storm. Fortunately, all of the rest of the family makes a chain, and Marge, who apparently does not skip leg day, is able to pull all of them back into the basement, and the doors close behind Homer.
Ooh, that was close.
At this point, Marge turns to her last hope. She drops to her knees and says, Dear God, this is Marge Simpson. If you stop the hurricane and save our family, we'll be forever grateful and recommend you to all our friends. So if you could find it in your infinite wisdom to...
Wait, listen, everybody.
Chirp, 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 chirp,
The hurricane's
chirp, chirp.
over.
And Homer declares, ha, he fell for it. Way to go, Marge.
Before we hit the end of the act here, I want to throw this idea out there. You know, I get these crazy ideas sometimes. I feel like there's a couple references to season 1. There's one blatantly obvious one later, but
Yeah.
there's a Santa suit hanging in the basement throughout this entire ordeal. And I was wondering if Homer never returned his Santa suit from the very first episode.
And that would be another Christmas tie-in for what it's worth.
Yeah, fuck. Keep doing this.
How did you catch the baby Jesus and not Santa? Jesus doesn't have anything to do with Christmas. Santa does.
Yeah, but I didn't look at the date of the episode airing before we started, so that idea is fresh in my mind.
I gotcha. I'm just fucking
But-
with you.
I know you are, but what am I?
And the
A
Christmas.
garbage man. But yeah, I didn't know. I assumed it was Homer's from season 1. But that makes more sense that it's just Christmas time.
Well, it's a Christmas miracle, it would seem, because the storm went through and didn't damage a single thing. And Marge even remarks, it just goes to show that everything will work out if you have faith. Only just one house over, we see that apparently one family didn't have enough faith, Richie. And that family was the Flanderses, because their house is absolutely demolished to a pile of rubble. Ned actually is poking out of the bricks covered in dust, and you can see that he is just as broken emotionally as his home is. And that very grim moment is how we end our first act, and we will go ahead and take just a very quick break and be right back for Act 2 of Hurricane Neddy.
Hey guys, I'm here to talk about a serious problem today. One that can affect us all, but it's also a problem that can be fixed with everyone's help. I'm Richie the Whiz Kid, and I'm talking about podcasts. So many podcasts in the Somebodies Network need your help. They are being malnourished. Some are living in terribly harsh conditions, and some are Canadian. But with your help, a corner can be turned for these poor podcasts, especially in regards to Best Darn Diddly. You can go to popthreads.com and use the code Simpsons at checkout. Or you can buy Best Darn Diddly merch at tpublic.com. Most importantly, you can go to patreon.com/bestdarndiddly to donate now for as little as $1 a month. For less than 4 cents a day, you can bring a smile to these poor podcasters' faces. So let's work together to end the poverty of these podcasts. Let's be honest, you were probably just going to get a Krusty Burger with that dollar anyways. Cut to the pictures of starving podcasts.
We come back for our second act, and as I mentioned before the break, everything in town was perfectly fine except for the Flanders home. And there's actually a camera pullback where you see that everything else survived, and just for whatever reason, the hurricane decided to come right at Flanders. We do pretty quickly see, as the Simpsons run over to help, that they find Maude, Rod, and Todd, so everybody is okay, though technically, I think it was Rod, had been driven through a tree, much like you might see like a 2x4 in real life.
I don't know. We haven't really got into superpowers with the Flanderses, but that boy must not have a brain inside his head because he's completely fine, except for a headache.
Yeah, I think that this was mostly just funny because, again, after a hurricane, you do often see crazy things like a 2x4, like a rake that has been driven through, various objects.
Or a small child.
But never a small child that I know of. They don't usually drive in, they just go squish.
Ooh. I feel bad for laughing now. I was laughing at Rod, not at real life.
Ned announces, "Well, sir, everyone's alive. I guess there's something to be thankful for."
Now, that kind of attitude's not going to get your house back.
Marjorie assures them, "It's fine. Your insurance is going to cover it."
Oh, well, no. Neddy doesn't believe in insurance. He considers it a form of gambling.
It's kind of funny. The only thing that survived the storm was the family tombstones. And we actually see leaning on the fence all four: Ned, Maude, Rod, and Todd, which is just super dark. But that's literally all the Flanderses have left.
Well, call us if you need anything. So observant, that Homer Simpson.
Homer is just like saying words, but like obviously like has no heartfeltness at all, and there's no sentiment to his offer for help at this point.
Exactly.
The only place in town that is seemingly going to help Flanders is the Springfield Catholic Church, which has my absolute favorite joke in the episode, hands down, on the church sign, where it declares, "God welcomes his victims."
Oh, I thought you were going to go with the butthole servers.
No, that's also funny, but that sign absolutely just rings, it resonates with me hard.
I'm sure it does.
We do very quickly see that, since I said earlier, there's no other damage in town. Literally, there's tons of cots laid out in the church, but it's just the 4 of them being used. They came in with nothing but the tattered clothes on their back, and the kids are given a couple of t-shirts. I think you mentioned already, I think it was Rod has nope, it was Todd. I keep getting those backwards. Todd has a Butthole Surfers t-shirt on. But actually, if you look, you'll notice that you never actually see the entire word butthole because the censors wouldn't allow it. So on the shirt, it actually says butthole, much like Thrill Ho. Butthole Surfers.
I'm a surfer.
Rod has an even more obnoxious shirt, one of those I'm with stupid shirts, and he's very, very proud of the joke. "Look, Daddy, Todd is stupid and I'm with him." And then he takes a step to his right. "And now Mommy's stupid."
Neddy, I know this has been a terrible day, but by golly, first thing tomorrow morning, we're going to open up the leftorium, and before you know it, we'll be back on our feet.
And just then on TV, once again, we hear from Kent Brockman. "Down here at Springfield Mall, a storm crowd appeared to have turned its rage on the leftorium. Surprisingly, people are grabbing things with both hands, suggesting it's not just southpaws in this rampaging mob." And Kent actually gives one of the looters advice when he yells out, "Hey, try looking in the back."
Oh my gosh.
Meantime, Springfield bowlers will be happy to hear that the Bowlerama is back in business at its new location, teetering over the Carter-Nixon Tunnel. Yay! I think it's hilarious how much better the scores are going to be just because pins fall over while that place is rocking.
I'm always nervous about the whole place falling over.
I guess if you're just not dedicated to being better at bowling, I guess, Rich.
I guess not. I guess there was one other place besides the Flanders' home that got hit, at least.
Yeah, but it didn't get any damage. It just got relocated.
No. Yeah.
Which really makes you wonder about like how that thing was attached to its foundation. But that's for maybe a future episode. Who knows? They're still going.
Barney's family running it, right?
Yeah. Ned is having a real crisis of faith. He goes and talks to Lovejoy. With all that's happened to us today, I kind of feel like Job.
Well, aren't you being a tad melodramatic, Ned? Also, I believe Job was right-handed.
But, Reverend, I need to know, is God punishing me?
Shoo. Short answer, yes, with an if. Long answer, no, with a but. If you need additional solace, by the way, I've got a copy of Something or Other by Art Linkletter in my office.
And honestly, I think this is one of the worst cases of Lovejoy being a complete and utter asshole in the entire series. Like, I personally hate this scene, just because it makes me feel so bad for Ned, who, as much as he is obnoxious, and I don't fundamentally agree with him, you can't argue that he's always a really nice and giving dude. And just the fact that he's been crushed, and Lovejoy is so quickly just dismissing him with bullshit.
But it's also, like, I wrote a note on this watch through that I've felt a lot more. Like, I remember feeling for Ned as a kid, but this particular time, like, they really do a good job before the house scene coming up. They do a really good job of making you feel like he is both emotionally and literally, his life has been crushed. Like, you very much feel for Flanders.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they also do talk about on the commentary just wanting to acknowledge how great of a job Harry Shearer does in this episode, because it's not common that a voice actor has to explore his characters so out of their normal characteristics. But Ned goes through a complete emotional range in this episode, and we haven't even seen all of that yet, but even right here, that's a lot more of a depressed Ned that we're used to seeing.
Yep. You can't go on too long like that.
No, you cannot.
And then we get Ned actually going up to the Bible late at night when he can't sleep.
And even the Bible is an asshole to Ned in this case, because
Yeah.
he goes to find comfort in the book of the Lord, and all he ends up with is a paper cut.
Ow, damn it. Doesn't he say damn it there? I don't remember.
I don't recall him saying damn it. I believe he goes into a doodly diddly sort of rage, but he does cry out, "Why me, Lord? Where have I gone wrong? I've always been nice to people. I don't drink or dance or swear. I've even kept kosher just to be on the safe side. I've done everything the Bible says, even the stuff that contradicts the other stuff." Another great joke.
I actually, like, you just talked about Harry doing the acting in this. I really love this little quick monologue. It just that's what really drove everything home when you watch it is that particular scene where it's like he's at his breaking point. This is it. Like, nothing else can go wrong or else he's going to explode.
And it seems like maybe, just maybe, that his prayers were answered to some extent, because at his breaking point, it's actually Marge Simpson who comes calling and tells him that he has to come back to his house immediately. Something incredible has happened.
Oh, what now? Did the rubble burn down?
That's just the state of mind Ned is in at this point. But he's actually shocked when he arrives home to see that everyone in Springfield has gathered around, except for Lovejoy, I think, who... But they rebuilt Ned's house. His house is no longer a pile of rubble.
One day, huh?
Looks and seems like it's back to new. Homer's there in a hard hat and tool belt. "Hope you like it, neighbor. We didn't have the best tools or all the know-how, but we did have a wheelbarrow full of love."
And a cement mixer full of hope and some cement.
I will point out real quick, there's a big crowd gathered around here, and a couple of the people in the crowd are, in fact, Bob Anderson, again, the director of this episode, and Steve Young, the writer, is also drawn into the surrounding scene.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Ned can't believe it. "I don't know how I can possibly repay you, but if any of you ever need a favor, just look for the happiest man in Springfield." But we pan over to some random guy in suspenders and a bow tie.
No, not me, friends. He's talking about himself, but thanks for looking.
So it's time for the grand tour, and right off the bat, there's a little tiny hitch when he has to kind of bang on the door a little bit with his shoulder to get it to open. But he walks inside to the cheers of the crowd, only to almost immediately get his sleeve caught on a nail.
Yeah, 1 out of 25 ain't bad. Whack, whack, whack.
And we see Homer just hammer that nail right in, but not well. He just mashes it in, basically.
Yeah.
They walk into the kitchen, which Homer mentions is just how he remembers it, except for one tiny modification. And you can actually see that there's a toilet right next to the refrigerator, which Wiggum points out, Ned, you ever try lugging a toilet up a flight of stairs?
But they had so many people. There's no water in it at first.
But you know what? Even Bart is getting in on the humanitarian efforts. He's showing Rod and Todd their rebuilt room, but he has a poster of a clown up, and Rod really doesn't like it.
I wouldn't take it down if I were you. It's a load-bearing poster.
But he says it too late, because Rod had already ripped it off, and sure enough, the walls start to separate where the poster was covering.
A load-bearing poster. Fair enough.
I've been there.
Uh-huh.
Finally, Apu takes them into another room, which is buzzing literally with electricity.
Well, they don't actually go inside that room.
Yeah, they go right up next to it. You're right.
And you can see all of their hair, being electrified and staticky.
Apu explains that this is the room with electricity, but it has too much electricity, so, I don't know, maybe wear a hat.
Uh-huh. Floor feels a little gritty here.
Yeah, we ran out of floorboards there, so we painted the dirt. Pretty clever. My favorite bit is actually this perspective hallway, because as Ned walks down his hallway, it gets tinier and tinier, and they clearly did not build it to the same size all the way down as they were running out of materials. But Ned opens the tiny little door at the end of the hallway to reveal just Barney's eye.
Come on in! It's your master bedroom!
And Ned just slams the door.
Oh, my nose!
Ned's finally had about enough, and they walk outside.
How did Barney get in the room?
I think he built himself into it, dude.
I thought he was outside at the beginning. I don't remember.
But Homer actually asks, so Flanders, what do you think of the house that Love built? And he actually pats the front door just gently, as if to gesture that it was built with love. But that was enough to cause the entire first floor to start caving in, leaving just the second floor only for a few minutes before it also collapsed, leaving Ned once again for the second time in seemingly 2 days with what was his home now just a pile of rubble.
I love how you get it's still the same shot where Homer's facing the same way the audience watching the episode is facing, so you see him from behind and he just goes, "Ah, shoot." It's just not that big of a deal to him.
At this point, you can visibly see that Ned is shaken, I think, for at least the minimum, and you can kind of see he's trying to keep everything calm.
Calm down, Neddly diddly, diddly diddly doodly. They did their best shot at diddly iddly. Iddly diddly diddly. Gotta be nice. Hostiddle diddly diddly. Ah, hell! I diddly ding dong crap. Can you morons do anything right?
Ned, we meant well, and everyone here tried their best.
Well, my family and I can't live on good intentions, Marge. Oh, your family's out of control, but we can't blame you because you have good intentions.
Hey, back off, man.
Oh, okay, dude. I wouldn't want you to have a cow, man. Here's a catchphrase you better learn for your adult years. Hey, buddy, got a quarter?
I am shocked and appalled. Mr. Flanders, with all due respect, Bart didn't do anything.
Do I hear the sound of butting in? It's gotta be little Lisa Simpson, Springfield's answer to a question no one asked. What have we got here? The long, flabby arm of the law? The last case you got to the bottom of was a case of Malamars.
Malamars, that's going in the act.
Oh, yeah, the clown. The only one of you buffoons who doesn't make me laugh. And as for you, I don't know who you are, but I'm sure you're a jerk.
And that was actually Lenny, who's very caught off guard. Hey, I've only been here a few minutes. What's going on?
You ugly, hate-filled man.
Hey, I may be ugly and hate-filled, but, what was the third thing you said?
Homer, you are the worst human being I have ever met.
And Homer just says in reply, hey, I got off pretty easy.
You know, I love the line from Lisa in that moment because she says Bart didn't do anything, which is, I feel like a secret callback to the I didn't do it bit.
Well, they do go through a lot of his catchphrases, so that would be a good idea. Also, I don't see as Bart being the type to actually help with this project, so he literally didn't do anything.
But I love the secret call to I didn't do it.
At this point, though, Ned has clearly lost his mind, or at least he's acting severely out of character, but he just simply, after telling Homer that he's the worst human being ever, he simply walks away, gets into his car, puts on some nice, calm music, and starts to drive. Only after a few minutes of this pleasant music driving, we see that he heads straight to the Calmwood Mental Hospital, and he doesn't even stop at the gate. He just drives right through it. And that brings us to the end of our second act. We're going to be right back with the conclusion of Hurricane Neddy.
Hello, Best Darn Diddly listeners. It's Mike Reese. I've been writing for The Simpsons for 30 years. I ran the show in seasons 3 and 4. I created The Critic. And now I've written a book. It's called Springfield Confidential, and it is the first insider's look at The Simpsons. It's filled with secrets, scandals, and tales of censorship and celebrities. It's a great book. It's like a Simpsons episode. It's fast, it's smart, and it's packed with hundreds of jokes, some of them funny. Please buy Springfield Confidential. You can order it now on Amazon.com.
Our third act starts with Ned Flanders at the Calmwood Mental Hospital explaining, I just attacked all my friends and neighbors, just for trying to help me. I'd like to commit myself.
Very well. Shall I show you to your room, or would you prefer to be dragged off kicking and screaming?
Ooh, kicking and screaming, please.
As you wish.
No! But I will note that there was no kicking from Ned, just screaming.
And then I think he stops whenever they have to open up another door or something, and then he continues when they start dragging him again.
We see Ned is in his padded cell in a straitjacket, but when a nurse goes by, she instantly recognizes Ned, and she goes to make a phone call.
Ooh, spooky.
We see a man and his wife laying in bed. The phone rings. Yes, Dr. Foster here. Ned Flanders? You're sure? No, I'll come right over. And may God have mercy on us all. Which, that line right there is directly out of Halloween, which we're going to repeat it again here in just a moment. Dr. Foster hangs up and explains to his wife, Darling, there's an emergency at the hospital. Where are my shoes?
I think they're in the den.
The den? May God have mercy on us all.
I always have an issue when the doctor first wakes up because his eyes look like they're pointing at odd angles. Like they're not looking, they don't look correct. They look like they're both pointing outwards, if that makes sense.
I didn't catch that, to be honest, so I don't know.
Every time I've watched it, I've noticed it. Like it's just for a few seconds, but it's very disconcerting. He needs to see a doctor, perhaps.
Interesting. Apparently he's not an eye doctor.
Nope.
Dr. Foster actually comes to visit Ned, and when he asks how Ned is feeling, I love Ned's response, because he says he's a little chilly and requests another straitjacket.
But also, he recognizes the doctor. I think he even calls him Dr. Foster.
That's right. He recognizes him because he was treated by him 30 years ago. But Dr. Foster does tell him that he probably doesn't remember the darkest moments of that era. And he sets up a projector, and he shows a bit of footage from the Juvenile Aggression Study sponsored by Swanson's Angry Man TV Dinners, which is, of course, a play on the real-life Swanson's Hungry Man TV Dinners.
This also puts into question a future episode of The Simpsons, Miles. If he treated Ned 30 years ago, we actually know that Ned is a senior citizen. He's over the age of 60. So that would mean that he would have to be around the age of 30 if he was treated 30 years ago.
Well, doesn't
so
he say that it was over 30 years ago? So maybe it was like 30 years over 30 years ago.
Hopefully so, or else the math does not add up. Somebody rewatch the episode and let us know. Hashtag Ned60.
Well, we see that as a child, whenever that may have been, which it would seem during the 1960s based on the attitudes of his parents, but Ned was a wild child. He was an absolute menace, running around, yelling. He was actually screaming things like, "Wee, I'm Dick Tracy," while hitting other people. Bang! Take that, Prune Face! Now I'm Prune Face! Take that, Dick Tracy! Now I'm Prune Tracy! Take that, Dick!
Hey, stop it at once! Good save there, Dr. Foster.
We also see that Ned is on Dr. Foster's bookshelf, and he's upset because he's like, quit throwing those. Most of them haven't been discredited yet. He asked Ned's parents to stop. Please, have his son quit misbehaving in his office.
We can't do it, man! That's discipline! That's like telling Gene Krupa not to go... We don't believe in rules, like we gave them up when we started living like freaky beatniks.
You don't believe in rules, yet you want to control Ned's anger.
Yeah, you gotta help us, Doc. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
We've tried nothing and nothing's changed.
I felt both correct and bad about the note I wrote in this upcoming scene where I feel like this is the world we live in currently, not the 60s. This is now.
Where people do nothing and nothing changes?
Where they want to control their kids, but they don't believe in certain things.
I gotcha. Dr. Foster does have an idea. He decides to put Ned into the University of Minnesota Spankological Protocol, which seems like it's just 8 straight months of straight up spanking, which I actually really enjoy the way they do this, because the doctor is spanking Ned over and over again right by an outdoor window, and you can just see the seasons changing. But my absolute favorite part, he is of course spanking on beat, and at one point in the summer, a beach ball comes through the window and he misses one spank and hits the beach ball back in rhythm. It's a really fun moment.
And then goes back to spanking in rhythm.
Yeah.
Doesn't miss a beat.
I'll also point out that the University of Minnesota Spankological Protocol is in fact based on the real-life University of Minnesota, which actually does in fact have a very long history of involvement with mental health advancement, not necessarily spanking advancement, but they were actually the ones to invent the MMPI, or Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory Test, which that is actually the most widely used test to determine, that's the test that you take whenever you take a job or you get a new job. And the idea is it's a psychoanalytical test to determine your personality traits.
Huh, okay. We've all taken a few of those, I think.
I think so. But at the end of this spanking treatment, which even includes one of Ned's birthdays, where he opens a present while being spanked, by the way, we see that it worked. Now, anytime Ned gets frustrated, instead of exploding with anger, he just turns it into nonsensical jabbering.
Well, if that isn't a darn doodly diddly. Yes, that's it, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem, is basically that's not enough venting of anger, and it just builds up. So Dr. Foster decides they need to dive into this problem, and they're going to need the help of somebody that can really upset Ned. So, of course, they call in Homer.
I like, too, after Ned has the, well, Dr. Foster goes, yes, that's it right there. And Ned does his little, well, isn't that a doodly? And Dr. Foster's like, okay, calm down.
Yeah, good point, good point. We hear the phone ring at the Simpsons' home, and Homer answers, "Yellow? Yes? Mental hospital? Well, I don't know any Ned Flanders."
The man who lived next door until his house blew down?
Oh, him. So the entire Simpsons family goes to the mental hospital where they are all labeled sane before they're allowed to walk the corridors. I love that it's just little stickers. So theoretically, somebody could like rob them of their sane sticker, I'd like to point out.
Another time where Homer's been declared sane.
That's true. The second time he's been to a mental hospital for this to happen, only this time it was under his own choice.
You folks are free to roam the grounds. Just remember, one of our patients is a cannibal. Try to guess which one. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
And this is kind of a joke at the very common trope in movies where a lot of times people will just go and visit and be allowed to roam free, which, depending on what type of movie it is, will either lead to a very comedic situation or a very terrifying one.
Sometimes both.
Sometimes both. There's a couple of quick cameos that come up real quick as we see them walking down the halls of the asylum. First off, we see Lucille Botskowski, who you might better remember from the very first episode. That's not right. From what was supposed to be the very first episode of the series, but ended up being the last in season 1. She's Bots, the babysitter bandit, and we see that she's clearly been locked up for her mental state.
But she's not locked up. The door's wide open.
That's true. The door's also wide open on the next patient we see, which is actually a gentleman drawn to look very much like John Swartzwelder. And in very John Swartzwelder fashion, he slams the door so he gets some privacy. And last but not least, we actually get another cameo appearance from none other than the critic, Jay Sherman, who is just repeatedly saying, "It stinks! It stinks! It stinks!"
Yes, Mr. Sherman. Everything stinks.
And this joke is actually due to the fact that this was right after the critic itself was in fact canceled, keeping in mind that both Josh Weinstein and Bill Oakley consider Mike Reese and Al Jean to be their heroes because, one, they gave him a job at The Simpsons, but they went off to create The Critic, and they thought it would be a fun little tie-in to say that maybe this was the fate of The Critic after his show is canceled.
Kind of dark, but fitting in a way.
Yeah, I thought it was fun, and I think it was appreciated in the long run because it was definitely a joke done with the utmost respect and love for the creators of that show.
I completely agree.
Dr. Foster actually sets up Ned in a booth that has one of those separation windows where it can kind of raise or lower as needed. And he puts Homer on the other side with the instructions to be as annoying as he possibly can be.
But he gave him cue cards. That was the first mistake here.
Well, and then I think Homer has a thing of bubble gum, and he blows it up so big it just explodes in his face, proving that,
Homer,
he
can you be that annoying?
Yep, pop! Yep, I think so. Behind a two-way mirror, we see Dr. Foster and another doctor observing what's happening, and each time the partition reveals Homer to Ned, Homer tries to be annoying, but like you said, he has cue cards, so it's not really working out. Ned Flanders, I mock your value system. You also appear foolish to the eyes of others.
Well, howdy, Homer.
And the partition starts to go up.
Oh, thanks for dropping by.
Foster is concerned because he's not responding. Proceed to level 2 antagonism. And we see once again the partition slides down. Past instances in which I profess to like you were fraudulent.
Oh, well, I'll just have to try harder.
And once again, the partition goes up.
Oh, thanks for dropping by.
And Dr. Foster is still baffled. He's still repressing. Maximum hostility factor. I engaged in intercourse with your spouse or significant other. Now that's psychiatry.
Oh, Homer.
And at this point, Homer is actually growing frustrating. He actually turns to the two-way mirror. That's it. You just can't insult this guy. You call him a moron, and he just sits there grinning moronly.
Moronally? I don't remember how he said it, but it wasn't quite right. Hi, neighbor.
You know what your problem is, Flanders? You're afraid to be human.
Oh, now why would I be afraid of that?
Because humans are obnoxious sometimes. Humans hate things.
Well, maybe a few of them do. Back east.
And Dr. Foster is like, I can't find what he's saying. I didn't write this. Did any of you write this?
Do you like it?
Homer continues, come on, Flanders. There's gotta be something you hate. What about mosquito bites?
Sure are fun to scratch. Satisfying.
What about, fluorescent lights?
Oh, they hum like angels. You're never lonely if you got a fluorescent light. You know, I don't like the service at the post office. You know, it's all rush, rush, get you in, get you out. Then they got those machines in the lobby. They're even faster. No help there. You might even say, I hate the post office. That and my parents. Lousy beatniks. Hey, that felt good.
And Dr. Foster realizes they're onto something. He just said he hates his parents. Do you know what that means?
What do you think?
It means he's cured.
That's what I said.
What a kiss ass. I love it. So Ned's released from the hospital in front of an adoring crowd. Once again, it
with
seems
Reverend Lovejoy this time.
Yeah, he is there to his credit, but he missed all the hard work.
Thanks, everyone. I'm all better now. No more storing up the anger till I explode. If any of you does something I don't like, you're gonna hear about it.
Yay! And Foster's ecstatic because that's very healthy, Ned.
And if you really tick me off, I'm gonna run you down with my car.
And the clapping dies down dramatically, and everyone is just now a little bit worried, except for Homer, who just laughs it off. Ned, you so crazy.
Wink.
And that brings us to the very end of our episode, Hurricane Neddy. Richie, was there anything else that you or that book of yours want to talk about before we get on out of here?
We talked about stuff in my guidebook. First of all, I absolutely love this episode. I love seeing the mental breakdown of Ned and finding out why he is the way he is, and love everything with his parents too. But I just have one thing to point out at the end of this episode, Miles. The Flanders still don't have a house.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a mishap in the reset there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we haven't really seen Maud or the kids in several days now. Maybe they were off hustling.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were up there with Ned at the end, obviously, but hopefully they rebuilt the house there.
Yeah, hopefully they did and not the neighbors again.
Poor Ned.
I'll only point out one last thing. I mentioned that one of the cameos we got in the mental hospital itself was actually of legendary writer John Swartzwelder. And at the very end of the episode, when they walk out, or Ned walks out specifically to the crowd of people, one of the people in the crowd is actually holding up a sign that says, Free Swartzwelder.
I didn't catch that on there. Wow, okay.
Really good joke.
Yeah.
I love those types of things that are hidden in there that you can see the episode so many times, which this one I've seen dozens and dozens of times. And also, we talked a little bit about this in between acts on our break, but this episode was very well balanced. It had 3 very solid acts. You really felt like it told a complete story. You got a full character arc from Ned, which was really fun to see. And just all in all, this is a hell of a good episode. It is rated an 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which doesn't even put it at the top of the season, let alone the series, but it's still definitely, I think, will be a contender, or will be a consideration when we're doing our top 5 list at the end of this season.
Yeah, I've been bringing it up since we started the show, but Flanders has easily become one of my all-time favorite characters reviewing it, so I like to see him in the spotlight like this.
Yeah, 100%. That will do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Once again, want to thank you guys for tuning in with us each and every week. We really appreciate all the support. And if you want to keep supporting us in additional ways, check out patreon.com/bestdarndiddly, or hit up our TeePublic store, or support us on popthreads.com by using the discount code Simpsons at checkout. Save yourself a little bit of dough while also sending us a little bit ourselves.
And if you just want to be friendly with us, you can follow us on Twitter and all over social media at bestdarndiddly. That's DIDDLY. Miles is at Mr. Most Days Off. I'm at TheWiz_Kid23. And please give us a follow. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for always joining us for this fun ride.
And the ride continues next week as we're going to be visiting the episode El Viaje Misterioso de Nuestro Homer.
Uh-oh. May God have mercy on us all.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.